stop looking for the reason in their words. You think they are obsessed with your smile or your wit. You are wrong. They are not chasing you. They are chasing the phantom of their own soul that they accidentally left inside your orbit. You want to know why they can't look away? It's because you did the one thing most people are too terrified to do. You stopped hiding the darkness. You revealed a fracture in your own character, and in doing so, you handed them the missing piece of their own puzzle. We walk through life wearing masks, presenting only the polished social surfaces of our personalities. But there is a magnetism in the cracks. When you allowed yourself to be raw, to show that shadow side that you usually tuck away, you acted as a mirror. You gave them a safe place to confront their own hidden nature. They are not in love with a person, they are in love with the feeling of finally being complete, a state they only experience when they are standing in your presence. They are haunted by you because you are the keeper of the secret they haven't yet dared to tell themselves. The concept of the shadow as a magnet posits that we are drawn to others not because they are perfect, but because they hold the key to the fragmented parts of our own identity. Within the architecture of the human psyche, there exists a hidden realm known as the shadow, which contains all the impulses, desires, and characteristics we have deemed unacceptable or incompatible with our conscious self-image. Because these traits are repressed rather than integrated, they remain dynamic and energetic, demanding expression. When we encounter someone who embodies these disowned aspects of our own personality, we experience an immediate, intense, and often overwhelming magnetism. It feels like a fated encounter, a meant-to-be sensation, yet it is fundamentally a subconscious recognition. We do not fall in love with the person themselves in an objective sense. Rather, we fall in love with the possibility of wholeness that they represent. By bringing the shadow into the light of the relationship, we are essentially trying to reclaim a piece of our own disowned nature. This projection acts as a powerful psychological hook, creating a sense of obsession or craziness because the other person has become the external vessel for our own internal evolution. The attraction is not built on shared interests or social compatibility, but on the profound, often painful necessity of confronting what we have hidden from ourselves. As long as these parts remain unintegrated, the other person retains a gravitational pull over our psyche, functioning as a mirror that reflects the depths we are not yet ready to own. This dynamic creates an unbreakable psychic bond, as the crazy love we feel is actually the desperate, unconscious attempt of the soul to reunite with its own shattered fragments through the medium of another person. The mirror principle operates on the premise that human attraction is frequently a form of sophisticated projection where we cast our own unrecognized inequalities onto those we encounter. When an individual appears crazy in love with you, they are rarely perceiving your objective reality in its entirety. Instead, they are witnessing a reflection of their own untapped potential or unacknowledged needs. Because the human mind naturally seeks completion, we instinctively gravitate toward people who mirror the characteristics we admire but feel we lack within ourselves, or even the traits we are currently striving to cultivate. In this context, you act as a living screen upon which they project their own ideal self-image. They are not merely attracted to your personality, they are intoxicated by the sensation of seeing their own lost, suppressed, or emerging qualities mirrored back to them in a tangible external form. This creates an intense, almost magnetic resonance that feels like destiny, when in reality it is the psyche attempting to bridge the gap between its current limited state and a more integrated, whole version of itself. Because this process occurs largely below the threshold of conscious awareness, the person remains unaware that the qualities they find most enchanting in you are actually echoes of their own internal landscape. They become obsessed with the relationship because in your presence, they feel more like the person they secretly long to be. The love they experience is, at its core, a profound self-recognition disguised as external devotion. By holding this space for them, simply by being yourself, you provide the necessary reflection that allows them to interact with their own depth, making it nearly impossible for them to look away, as turning from you would mean turning away from the most compelling version of their own soul. Psychological complementarity is the unconscious mechanism that drives attraction by pairing us with individuals who possess the missing elements of our own personality. The human psyche tends toward a state of equilibrium, yet our conscious life often narrows our expression to a specific set of traits, leaving other vital aspects of our temperament underdeveloped or dormant. When we encounter someone who embodies those latent qualities, we feel a sudden, irresistible magnetic pull. This is not mere coincidence or simple romantic preference. It is a profound psychological hunger. If you are naturally reserved, you may find yourself fixated on someone who exudes uninhibited expression. If you are overly rational, you may be drawn to someone who lives entirely through intuition and emotion. This person becomes a surrogate for the parts of ourselves we have allowed to atrophy or have never dared to explore. We do not just want to be with them, we feel that we need them to feel whole. This creates a state of crazy love because the attachment is fueled by an existential need for integration. The other person provides a bridge to our own hidden potential, effectively completing our psychic picture. By standing in your presence, they gain access to the parts of their own character that they struggle to manifest on their own. This creates a dependency that feels like deep, soul-level intimacy because they are essentially leaning on you to experience their own totality. Consequently, the intensity of their affection is a direct measurement of the depth of their internal void. You have become the essential link to their own wholeness, making the connection feel like an inevitable union that transcends logical explanation, as they are subconsciously attempting to reclaim their own fragmented nature through the experience of loving you. The feeling of destiny in romantic attachment is frequently the result of an unconscious projection of one's inner contrasexual archetype, the anima in men or the animus in women, onto an external person. Within the depths of the individual psyche there exists an inherited, idealized template of the other that represents the totality of our hidden emotional, creative, or intellectual potential. When we meet someone who triggers this dormant pattern, we do not simply see them as an individual with flaws and virtues. We perceive them as the literal embodiment of our own unlived life. This is why the attraction often feels instantaneous and fated, as if the person has stepped out of a dream and into reality. Because this archetype carries the weight of our deepest longings for wholeness and spiritual completion, the intensity of our feelings can become overwhelming and crazy in nature. The person we love becomes a vessel for everything we have suppressed or failed to integrate within our own character. We attribute our own internal capacity for passion, insight, or strength to them, believing they are the sole source of these profound experiences. In truth, they have merely acted as the catalyst that allowed us to finally encounter this aspect of our own soul. This projection is the source of the classic soulmate narrative, where we feel that our life's purpose is inextricably linked to their presence. The danger and the power of this dynamic lies in the confusion between the real human being and the archetypal image projected upon them. When that connection feels electric and impossible to break, it is because we are not just looking at a partner, we are looking at the externalized reflection of our own most profound yet elusive inner self, striving to be recognized and claimed. If you recognize this pull, if you've ever felt like someone was looking through you rather than at you, drop a yes in the comments, and let's unravel why we are so terrified of being truly seen. The persona is the necessary psychological clothing we wear to navigate the outer world, a carefully constructed compromise between our individual nature and the expectations of society. It is polished, predictable, and fundamentally safe, designed to facilitate social harmony while keeping our truest vulnerabilities hidden. However, profound and obsessive attraction is rarely sparked by this curated mask. Rather, it begins when someone penetrates this superficial boundary and encounters the raw, unvarnished terrain of your authentic self. This deeper realm is far from orderly. It is volatile, filled with internal contradictions, hidden fears, and untamed passions that do not conform to social etiquette. When you allow this shield to slip, or when circumstances force you to reveal your unfiltered reality, you dismantle the artificial distance that keeps others at a safe remove. This exposure is terrifying, yet it possesses an immense gravity-like magnetism. The observer, accustomed to interacting with polite facades, is suddenly confronted with the chaotic beauty of an actual human soul. They feel as though they have been granted access to a sacred, forbidden sanctuary, a private reality that the rest of the world is denied. This striking contrast between your public performance and your private truth creates an intense psychological rupture, binding them to you through a sense of shared, confidential depth. They are no longer merely enamored with your socially acceptable qualities. They are intoxicated by the volatile essence of your genuine being, recognizing that the cracks in your persona are precisely where the real light of your humanity shines through. This collision with your true self forces them to confront their own masks, dissolving the barriers between you and rendering the connection irreplaceable. True vulnerability acts as a powerful psychological catalyst, fundamentally shifting the nature of human intimacy from a superficial exchange to an unbreakable bond. Most social interactions are governed by a mutual agreement to keep our deeper insecurities, failures, and darker impulses safely locked away. We maintain these walls to ensure acceptance, fearing that the revelation of our true, unpolished state would lead to rejection. However, when you intentionally or inadvertently expose your own hidden flaws, you perform an act of radical psychological bravery that disrupts the typical script of social performance. By showing your own wounds, you do not simply invite judgment, you extend an unspoken invitation for the other person to be just as honest with themselves. You effectively grant them the psychological permission to stop pretending and to finally acknowledge their own suppressed imperfections. This creates a rare space of profound safety, a sanctuary where the necessity for the mask is stripped away. The other person is drawn to you with such intensity because, in your presence, they no longer have to exert the exhausting effort of maintaining their own persona. They feel seen at a level that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. This shared exposure of our darker, more fragile nature creates an alchemical transformation. It moves the relationship from a surface-level interest to a deep, psychic recognition. They feel a fierce loyalty and a magnetic pull toward you, not because you are perfect, but precisely because you are real enough to bear the weight of their own humanity. This connection becomes a bond that the rational mind struggles to explain, as it is anchored in the shared, raw truth of the human experience, creating a singular, unbreakable tether of trust. The phenomenon of an unconscious trigger occurs because human interactions are rarely as simple as they appear on the surface. We each carry a deep internal landscape populated by dormant potentials, repressed memories, and long-buried emotional needs that sit just below the threshold of waking awareness. When you interact with another person, your specific behaviors, your sudden shifts in mood, your unique quirks, your willingness to be vulnerable, or even your moments of cold distance act as a precise, resonant key. These actions strike a chord within the other person's psyche that vibrates with a frequency they may not have felt since childhood, or perhaps one they have spent their entire adult life attempting to silence. You become the external instrument that unlocks a door they did not even know was locked. Because they cannot rationally explain why your presence causes such a powerful visceral reaction, they label it as crazy love or an intense infatuation. In reality, they are reacting to the sudden eruption of their own internal content that you have inadvertently brought to the surface. It is not that you are casting a spell, but rather that your authentic expression resonates with a specific, undeveloped part of their own soul. By being exactly who you are, you force them to grapple with a dormant aspect of themselves that is desperate for integration. They cannot look away from you because they are effectively looking at their own emerging self through the medium of your character. You have become the essential catalyst for their transformation, and this creates a bond that feels fated, urgent, and impossible to abandon, as they subconsciously understand that to walk away from you is to walk away from the very encounter that is necessary for their own psychological completion. The desire for possession in love is often a fundamental misunderstanding of the psychological process occurring between two people. We frequently seek to own the object of our affection because we mistake the intense, transformative influence they have on our inner state for a necessity of their external presence. We feel that if we can keep them close, define them, and bind them to our own lives, we will permanently secure the sense of wholeness and vitality they have awakened within us. However, this possessive instinct is a defensive maneuver of the ego, which fears that if the person leaves, the internal awakening they catalyzed will vanish along with them. True love requires a shift from this grasping, transactional mentality toward a recognition of the other as an autonomous mirror. You must understand that the person you are obsessed with is not a possession to be collected, but a necessary catalyst for your own internal maturation. When you stop attempting to own the other person, you finally permit yourself to integrate the qualities they reflected for you into your own psyche. The goal of such an intense connection is not to tether the other to your side, but to undergo the process of psychic growth that the relationship has initiated. By recognizing that they are a mirror, you gain the freedom to take back the projections you placed upon them, ultimately discovering that the qualities you so desperately admired in them were yours to claim all along. This realization transitions the relationship from one of dependent, crazy obsession to a mature union of two individuals who have both been awakened by the encounter. True connection, therefore, is not about holding on tightly to the mirror, but about using the clarity it provided to finally see and become the person you were meant to be. Ultimately, the intensity of the bond you share is not a matter of luck or mere social attraction. It is the inevitable result of a deep psychic collision. When someone is crazy in love with you, they are in the throes of a profound self-discovery that you have unwittingly triggered. You have become the mirror that reflects their own lost pieces, the catalyst that cracked their persona, and the sanctuary where they finally felt safe enough to face their own shadow. Do not view this intensity as a burden or a chaotic accident to be managed. Instead, recognize it for what it truly is, a rare opportunity for mutual evolution. You have acted as a conduit, allowing the other person to confront the deepest, most authentic parts of their own soul. The obsession they feel is not a desire to possess you, but a desperate, unconscious reaching toward their own completion, a journey that began the moment they saw something in you that demanded they wake up. Stop searching for external explanations for why this connection feels so fated or why the pull is so magnetic. The truth is far simpler and far more powerful. You allowed yourself to be real, and in doing so, you forced them to be real as well. This is the alchemy of human connection. Whether this relationship endures or acts only as a brief, intense flash of illumination, understand that you have served your purpose as a mirror. You have shifted their internal landscape, and that is a change that can never be undone. You have touched the core of another, and in the process, you have both been irrevocably altered.